Good morning. I am Liz Rafael Fontanilla, the first presenter of this topic. Okay, so our topic this morning is all about the Filipino character. Okay, so now, what comes to your mind when we say Filipino character? Okay, so when we say character, it talks about the behaviors, the values, and others of a person. Okay, so the Filipino character is like a colorful puzzle made up of diverse culture, history, and society. Okay, so when we say diverse, it talks about the different culture, the history of the culture, and our society. Okay? So now, the Filipino character weaknesses. So, of course, the character of the Filipino has also weaknesses because we're only human. Okay? So the values education in schools. Okay, so the other studies on Filipino moral character. And third is the impact of culture in morality. Okay. Okay, so the values education in school. So we will tackle this first. The values. So when we say values, it talks about what is the behavior of a person, how they come up with that character. It is because of how their ancestors handled them, or what is their culture like. Okay, so schools in the Philippines also develop the values of children, which will become the foundation of their morality. So of course, the Philippines also develop schools to develop the values of every children in the Philippines, which will become the foundation of their morality. So when we say morality, it talks about moralidad ng tao. Kung ano yung paninindigan mo sa iyong sarili, kung ano ang dapat at kung ano ang hindi. Okay, so we have here the picture. So as we can see here is that it is a child, or the children's were doing the values at the school, of course. So when we say values of the school, well, we are talking about what should be done, or what should the school should be done for the students to have a better future. Okay, so now the other studies of Filipino moral characters. We have other studies in or on the Filipino moral characters. You already know what is moral. Okay. So there had been studies of the Filipino moral life, the more popular of which were those Father James Bolatao, Father Leonardo Mercado, Father Francis Henden, and Father Vitaliano Gorospe. Father Bolatao's research identified the kami mentality of Filipinos. Okay, so of course, as a Filipino, it is known that kami, kung ano talaga tayo. Okay? Okay, so we have here the picture. So it is an example of a sinulog. So of course, in our culture, we also celebrated Sinulog festivals. So now, So there is an impact of culture on morality. Okay, so what is it? Okay, so the values of children which will become the foundation of their moralities. So the values of the children which will become the foundation of their morality. Okay, so we have here the picture. Okay, so it is known as pagmamano sa ating mga nakakatanda. Kung paano natin pinahahalagahan ang ating kultura sa pamamagitan ng pagmamano. Okay, so that is the impact of the culture on morality. And ganito pa rin tayo hanggang ngayon. Pero na lang mga bata na hindi na talaga ginagawa ito ngayon, pero meron pang iba. Okay? So now, there's other weaknesses. Okay. Okay, so the first one is extreme family-centeredness. Okay, so what is it mean when we say extreme family-centeredness? Okay, so excessive concern for family means using one's office and power to promote one's office and power to promote family interests, and thus factionalism, patronage, political dynasties, and protection of erring family members. Okay, so it's like we're talking about politics, for example, politics. So here is the So when we say extreme family-centeredness, so kung paano natin, for example, Bongbong Marcos. So, syempre, may mga, sa politiko talaga, may mga pamilya na dapat may susunod sa iyo, sa iyong trono. Okay? So, like Bongbong Marcos. And then, first is Ferdinand Marcos. And then, after that is Imelda Marcos, which is her wife. And then, their son is Bongbong Marcos. And then now, Bongbong Marcos has a son and also has political powers because of his father. Okay, so next is extreme personalism. Okay, so when we say extreme personalism, by the way, when we say extreme, it's like we all tell it's like a selfishness in ourselves. Yung mas inuuna pa natin ang ating sarili kaysa sa iba. That is the extreme personalism. Okay. So extreme personalism takes things personally. Okay, cannot separate objective tasks from emotional involvement. Okay, he uses personal contacts and gives preference to family and friends in hiring, services, and even working that leads to graft and corruption. Okay, so we have here the example. As we can see, there is an inflation, the spectrum. Okay, so too much selfishness or too much personalism can lead to corruption. Like for example, also in politics, if you have the power to this, to that, and it will also lead to corruption because you have the power as a politician. Okay, so next is we have lack of discipline. Okay, so lack of discipline. A casual attitude toward time and space, manifested in lack of precision and compulsiveness in poor time management. So lack of discipline. This is what the poor attitude people of Filipinos doing. Okay, so we have here a picture. Okay, as you can see in the picture is a woman that yung hindi siya nakikinig sa mga talagang dapat na gagawin as a para maangat ang kanyang buhay. Okay? Okay, so 4 is positivity and lack of initiative. So, ano nga ba yung positivity and lack of initiative? So, malalaman natin yan dito. Okay, so waiting to be told what to do, reliance on others, leaders, and government, complacence, lack of sense of urgency. So, yung positivity and lack of initiative is yung nag-aantay ka lang ng opportunity. So, hindi mo ginagawa, dapat gagawin mo na dapat pero hindi mo ginagawa. Okay? So, that is positivity and lack of initiative. Yung naghihintay ka lang ng, parang sa loto, naghihintay ka lang ng kung ano ang matatama sa loto. That is. Okay, so, we have here a picture of positivity and lack of initiative. Okay, so, in Bisaya, it is tapulan kay ka. Okay? So, in this picture, as we can see, is that it's like laziness. So, in other word of positivity and lack of initiative is you are lazy as a Filipino. Okay? Okay, so colonial mentality. Colonial mentality. Okay, so lack of patriotism or of an active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines. So, when we say colonial mentality, colonial, from the word colonial, let's say in Tagalog, parang mas pinapahalagahan pa natin ang ibang kultura mas pinapahalagahan pa natin ang kultura ng ibang bansa kaysa sa kultura natin dito sa Pilipinas. That is colonial mentality. Okay, so we have here the example of colonial mentality. Okay, so as we can see is that Papa's Burgeria is made of America, while the street food is made of Philippines. So as we can see in the picture, the Filipino is eating a burgeria instead of street foods, because street foods is a food of the Filipinos, while the burgeria is a food of the other countries. That is the colonial mentality of a person. Okay, so number 6, kanya-kanyang syndrome, talangka mentality. We all know that. Okay, so done by chismes, intriga, and constructive criticism. Okay, so when we say chismes, we all know that chismes everywhere, chismes there, yes, and intriga. So here, we have here the example of kanya-kanyang syndrome. So instead of we are condemning, we are helping, we are doing this by group, we are just like, I should be doing this because you are selfish. Okay? Okay, so number 7 is lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. Okay, so lack of self-analysis. Ano nga bang analysis? And what is the reflection? Okay. In face of serious personal and social problems, there is lack of analysis or reflection, and instead, satisfaction with superficial explanation and solution. Okay, so here is the lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. Okay, so we have that as a Filipino. Every culture have that in the Philippines. Okay? So next is emphasis on forma rather than substance. Okay, this is good. Emphasis on forma rather than substance. Okay, so when we say forma, what comes to your mind? Okay, so let me guess. It's like for politics, like plataforma. And substance, let's dig deeper. Okay, so manifesting in a focus on outward presentation rather than the depths of ideas or action. So for example, in politics, let's say this in Tagalog, sa ating nakikita sa politics natin ngayon, we Filipino knows that ang ating mga politicians o yung last mga politics, grabe yung mga plataforma nila, like this, like that, gagawin daw nila ito, like babaguhin daw nila, gawin daw nila Singapore yung bridge doon sa Manila, but they did not do it in action. So we can say that emphasis on forma rather than substance. Okay, for example here, there are many roads that are like broke. They said that during election that they will yung gagawin talaga nila ang lahat para lang masaayos yun, but hindi nila ginawa. And that is the plataforma rather than kung ano dapat ang action mo, diba? That is substance. Okay, so we have here the picture of Bongbong Marcos, Imelda Marcos, President Bongbong Marcos, Mrs. Imelda Marcos, and the late president, our late president Ferdinand Marcos. Okay, so these weaknesses are rooted in many factors: home, culture, and economic environment, culture and language, history, religion, educational system, mass media, leadership, and role models. Of course, it is all connected in one. Okay, so in home, we have also weaknesses because it's part of culture, the social and economic environment, and all. Okay? Okay, so now, change is possible. However, and the following goals are proposed to develop in the Filipino. Okay, so number 1 is a sense of patriotism and national pride. The second one is a sense of common good. Third one is a sense of integrity and accountability. Number 4 is the values and habits of discipline and hard work. Okay, so number 5 is the value and habits of self-reflection and analysis, the internalization of spiritual values and emphasis on essence rather than on form. Okay, so now let's talk about for number 1, a sense of patriotism and national pride. So, like K-pop lovers, so Filipinos, there are Filipinos that love K-pops instead of loving our culture here in the Philippines. So that is not it is okay, but as a Filipino, we should love more our cultures, the backgrounds of the Filipinos, and that is the national pride. The number 2 is a sense of common good. Of course, if we have sense, we will know what is good and right. Okay, so number 3 is a sense of integrity and accountability. Well, when I say integrity, it is like honesty. Okay, and if accountability, we are accountable because that will also help change the characteristic of the Filipino. Okay, so number 4, the values and habits of discipline and hard work. So the values of habits of discipline and hard work. So of course, we Filipinos there are sometimes we are lazy. So if we do habit ourselves in doing ourselves making ourselves hardworking, then we have here the discipline. Okay, so number 5 is the value and habits of self-reflection and analysis. Okay, the internalization of spiritual values and the emphasis on essence rather than on form. Okay? So, di dapat yun lang na kung ano lang ang nasa ating utak ay hindi natin gagawin. Dapat is kung ano ang plano natin, dapat nating gawin, because this will also help develop the Filipino cultures. So that's all, and thank you for my report. See you next. Goodbye.